Welcome to The Shed Wireless, a podcast for shedders, hosted by John Paul Young and produced by the Australian Men's Shed Association.
Yeah, there's something for you at the Men's Shed.
Hello and welcome back to the Shed Wireless podcast. It's made in Australia and distributed all over the world. Here's what we'll be talking about in this episode. In Shedder in the Spotlight, I talked to Graham Edwards from Kinglake in regional Victoria. That's where they had all those disastrous fires. Stuart Torrance is learning about music for health today in On the Pulse, in a chat with Jason Tenner, a music therapist. We're on the road with Lance from the Palmerston Shed in Northern Territory. Our special guests today are from the Council of Elders, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming changes to the aged care system. Stuart talks to two members, Russell Westacott, a long-time human rights advocate from regional New South Wales with decades of work in community health and elder rights, and Uncle Benny Hodges, a proud Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander man and 2024 ACT NAIDOC Elder of the Year. He brings cultural leadership and deep community knowledge to the council. We've seen quite a few natural disasters around the country over the last few years, and that can have a big impact for a long time. In Nailed It, Rip Woodchip is sharing a few thoughts about dealing with that sort of impact. Okay, let's get into today's Shed Wireless.
Shedder in the Spotlight. Let's find out who the spotlight is on today.
In Shedder in the Spotlight, we're going to talk to Graham Edwards from the Kinglake Men's Shed. So, Graham, for those who don't know, can you tell us where Kinglake is and where your shed is?
Well, Kinglake itself is basically about 70 k's northeast of Melbourne, Victoria, and we're up in the hills, and it's where the 2009 February bushfires were and devastated the town in a lot of ways. Where the actual shed is actually in Pheasant Creek, which is about 8 kilometres outside of Kinglake itself.
And that's why you started the shed after the fires.
Yeah, well, the shed was offered to a couple of different locations after the fires, and they had about 3 or 4 different locations that they offered to the sheds. Where they are now, it used to be a chocolate factory. And
a truffle factory?
Chocolate factory.
Oh, chocolate, sorry.
Right.
I've had chocolate truffles too. That's amazing.
It used to be a chocolate factory.
Right.
It was offered to the men's shed to take possession of it, which they did. Looked after by the Kinglake Trust Reserve people.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple of buildings up here that they were sort of looking after the fires. We took possession of the shed. It was basically just an open 2-building like a factory, and over time they divided one section of it up into the workshop area, which is the main area, and the tool room, and where they do the iron work and welding and so forth, layers and everything. And then in the other part of the second part of the shed was actually converted into the kitchen, common area where we've got billiard tables, table tennis tables, all that sort of stuff, lockers, and subdividing yet again into like a conference room or whatever, and about four other rooms that we use for storage and so forth. So, we've got a reasonably large facility. And
so were you one of the first to get involved?
No, I didn't get involved until, mid-2015.
You don't pay rent anymore. What happened there?
Well, what, with the shed?
Yeah.
With the shed itself, we basically owned by the Kinglake Reserve Trust, and over time, because we used to have to pay our rent and insurance and everything like that to to the trust fund, and then they would then repay the council and other people, and then some of the people who managed the shed at the time turned around and said, what's the chance that we could sort of take over the lease of it and everything like that. And about 2017, they went to the trust fund and they said to them, what about we take over the sole control of the shed, the building and everything like that. And then in 2019, it actually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And now we actually are totally responsible for the building, the maintenance. We pay all our own rates, our own insurances and everything like that. So just about most of the year we spend fundraising and so forth just to get the money into the bank account so we can then pay all our bills and everything like that. But at the end of the day, we sort of try and break even as much as we can.
So what sort of activities are you doing in the shed, Graham?
At the moment, we sort of basically work on wood. Wood, most of it, over the last few years, we've been making a lot of picnic tables and a few other things.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of, which we've made to a lot of the schools up here and to a lot of the other smaller businesses, cafes and so forth. We've made them and built them, and a lot of places up here have them. But at the moment, because we're sort of, how would you say, worked out that flooded the market with the tables.
Have you?
We've sort of got very hard for us to find any more businesses. So we're sort of experimenting with other different things. We've got a laser machine that we use, an atom stack laser engraver. So we've been making a few little things for some of the locals that have want gatepost signs and other things. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at doing pallet furniture. We get a particular company that I go and pick up all these pallets from. They donate it to us.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at making pallet furniture and so forth. I'll put some of that on our webpage, our Facebook pages recently.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, how's the community doing of Kinglake? Is it back on its feet now?
Oh yes. There's the older generation that have that survived the fires up here. You talk to them about the fires, and you can still see that still affects them to a degree when you look them in the eyes and so forth. There's a lot of new people up here, like yourself. So anybody that wasn't born or moved up here as a child is not really classed as a local. So, yeah, so what I've been told is you've got to be born up here, basically, to become a local.
Yeah, I was told you had to be buried here.
Yeah, well, we're only a small community of 1,400 people. So when you think of it, like 1,400 people over say 10, 20K radius of the township itself is not really many. And being in a position that I've been in over the last few months, I've had the opportunity to visit other men's sheds, and I'm thinking, my God, like, how are you able to have the membership that you have and everything like that? And their population is so compact compared to what we are. So,
well, Graham, I wish you every success in the shed, and we'll see if we can get the word out, as it were.
We are offering husband sitting sessions. If there are any wives, partners, girlfriends who would like to get rid of their husbands, boyfriends, partners out of the way for a couple of hours on a Thursday evening, send him to the Kinglake Rangers Men's Shed. We're just down the road and we will look after him, entertain him, teach him, and send him with new skills and send him home, and but with television, we play pool, read books, drink coffee, talk,
Lovely.
and all this sort of stuff. And we still haven't got a bite, even
Well, all you can do is keep trying, Graham.
oh,
Thanks for spending some time with us, mate.
no, thank you very much, John. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. We'll see what we can do.
No way. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, Graham.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I actually got in touch with Graham after that interview, and we spoke on local radio a couple of days later. We're trying to get some more people into that wonderful men's shed at Kinglake. Stuart has a couple of guests in the studio today. Let's have a listen. Over to you, Stuart.
Thanks, JPY. I'm Stuart Torrance, Men's Health and Wellbeing Officer for the Australian Men's Shed Association, and we're in the Council of Elders. Doesn't that sound impressive? We're here today with Mr. Russell Westacott and Uncle Benny Hodges, and they're going to tell us a little bit more about the Council of the Elders. Let's start with Russell. Russell, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Excellent. Russell, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background and where you're from.
I live in rural New South Wales, on Gandagara country, which is north of Goulburn.
Mm-hmm.
And I have experience of working in community-based organisations since the mid-80s. Particularly, I worked in organisations at the beginning of the HIV epidemic, then got, several paid positions and worked for different organisations. I also had the opportunity to live in New York for 5 years, where I worked with diverse populations, again, around HIV and HIV prevention and health promotion for people living with HIV. It was really at that point in time that I started exploring HIV and growing older and LGBTI issues and growing older, and started to get an interest in issues affecting the people in those communities as they grow older. I ended up applying for a job in 2011 for an organisation called Seniors' Rights Service, which is a New South Wales statewide service providing rights-based services, legal services, advice around optimising aged care services to older people across New South Wales.
Russell, can I just butt in there?
Sure.
You seem to be downplaying the level of your activity, because the notes that I've got here is you were Chief Executive Officer of the Seniors' Rights Service. So it wasn't like you were the mailman.
The job I applied for in 2011 was in fact for the CEO role. And I was CEO of that organisation for 10 years.
You were also active in developing the Older Persons Advocacy Network.
I was leading the New South Wales state-based aged care advocacy organisation, and there were other advocacy organisations in other states and territories, and I worked very hard to try and pull those different groups together and for us to form the Older Persons Advocacy Network. And many people, and we'll talk about it later today, but many people know it as OPAN.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But also, I just want to make mention, while I was working at Seniors' Rights Service, I was also active at the United Nations level, advocating for an international convention on the rights of older people, something that sadly never came to fruition for a bunch of reasons.
Russell, thank you very much for introducing yourself, and please never downplay the importance of what you've done previously. I'm sure you've helped a lot of people and ticked a lot of boxes along the way. And if we can now come to Uncle Benny Hodges. Uncle Benny, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Yeah, no, thanks. Not as haven't got a portfolio like Russell's, but I'm an Indigenous man. I'm blessed with being my heritage of both Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. I'm a Cairns boy originally, from Cairns, Far North Queensland.
Love the area.
Came down to Canberra for 3 years, my family and I, in 1998. We came down for 3 years. 27 years later, we're still here. I was in the public service for, I got a promotion, that's why we come down, so 22 years. And in 2005, I'd called it quits. I was working for ATSI, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Commission, and they were closing. I didn't want to work for anybody else, so I said, no, I'll take the golden handshake. And after about 10 months, I got bored. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, why don't you go out and work for yourself?" So I thought, "Oh yeah." They said, the lady said, everybody knows you. I've been working as a sole trader since 2005. Anyhow, cut a long story short, I got the ministerial appointment, and I come on board in my first meeting on one of the new ones with Russell in February. So I've been on deck since February and just excited, because many moons ago, when we were in our 40s, we used to joke. All my other mob cousin brothers and that would be sitting around, and they'd be saying, "Oh, you're older than me. You're coming towards your use-by date now." And we'd all laugh and say, yeah, 40, 45, 45, and some were a bit older, 48. And then we said that, no, why don't we say that let's not worry about those stats. Let's see how we go and look after ourselves a bit better. So from there, I'm now 71, and I thought, well, aged care, Council of Elders, mate, it's time for you to go and do your bit and see how you go. And that's,
Lay down the foundation.
well, I think the foundation's been laid.
When you're in your 40s, you see yourself as an older person, but those in their 20s and late teens and things, I think you're over the hill and gone. But I'm still, thinking of my parents who are 95. I'm thinking, there's still a good innings in us yet. Russell, can I ask you a question? Can you tell us about what's happening in aged care right now?
I think the important thing to understand is there's lots of reforms happening in aged care. People would be aware that several years ago, the government had a royal commission into aged care and aged care quality, and that royal commission went on for several years, and we heard some of the awful stories that were happening in aged care on the news each night, for people who were following all of that. And then the Aged Care Royal Commission, I think, came up with about 150 recommendations for reform and for making the system better and fairer. Aged care is very different to what it was 5 years ago, and aged care is extremely different to what it was a decade or more ago. And so some of those horror stories that we might have in our minds, I think we can confidently say that there is a much better and robust system in place that has a good quality framework around it where there's checks and balances in place. No system's perfect, but it's changed, and it's changed for the better.
Back in a previous life, I ran some programs. One particular was called Recharge Your Batteries for male carers of somebody with dementia. And one of the rhetorics that I got from the participants in that is they were reluctant to reach out for services because they were suspicious that if they were found to be under pressure, then their loved one might be taken into care, whether they liked it or not. And I think this is a misnomer that we've got to dispel. The government really does want us to stay at home as long as we possibly can. Uncle Benny, can I ask you how people would find out about the changes to aged care? Do you know where we would look for more information?
Firstly, they need to be registered with My Aged Care. They can visit My Aged Care at their website, which is, of course, myagedcare.gov.au, or they can make a free call on the 1800 number. That's 1800 200 422. There's a newsletter that they can subscribe to. And, there's a lot of information on the Department of Health and Aged Care's website, and the website is health.gov.au. Nice and simple, and they can search that about aged care to find out, any more information and resources. It's really going to be a lot simpler than what it was from because that'll replace the home care packages, and it'll just make it easier for them to access. There's a statement of rights in there, and they have, it just gets them to not feel that they can be bullied, or their decision is going to be respected, and things like that. So, and they'll find all that information on that website that I gave. Yeah.
Fantastic. So basically, it's a one-stop shop to receive all the information, all the resources, all the available services that are out there, and helps us actually keep connected to those services. Okay. So in that regard, I quite often give health and wellbeing talks at different men's sheds around the country. And I often start them by saying, who here is over the age of 65? And all the hands go up, of course. And then I say, keep your hands up if you have registered for My Aged Care.
Yep.
And you should see the number of hands that go down.
Yes.
I think it's very important, guys, that we sign up as early as we can so we get through that paperwork stage. And then the government has an idea of the amount of services that are going to be required going forward. Would I be right in suggesting that?
You would be, yes.
Right. Russell, does that make it easier for everybody and the government and everyone to coordinate what our future needs are?
Yes. What I would add to that is that by making those calls or going onto the website and getting some information, there's no harm done whatsoever. And the positive is that you can educate yourself around what's available for not only you, but for your loved ones and other people that you care about. Because as we all grow older, we all need to be looking out for each other. And if we all improve our knowledge base, then we can have conversations as groups of people, friendship networks, family, whatever, and we can share that information. And then as we move into that period of our lives where we need a service to come to our home, we've got friends and other people in our networks who can support us because everyone's holding that level of knowledge. Someone knows the 1-800 number and they get the call sent out. The assessor can come to that person, whoever the person is in the friendship network, needing the service. The assessor would come to the home, assess the person, and get the right services into the home. But can I just make another point, because you mentioned something before about some fear that some people have had in the past about maybe things get escalated and they might end up in an aged care facility. Yeah. If somebody doesn't want that to happen, people have the right, particularly under the new Aged Care Act. It's all about the rights of the individual, the rights of the human who is in the middle of all of this, to make decisions and to be able to say what they want and the services they want at home, and that they want them at home and not at an aged care facility. So this is a rights-based act, and it's all about the human rights of the individual.
It's about us.
Exactly.
Russell, absolutely fantastic point, because you're right. There's a lot of people that think, oh well, I'm not going to go onto the portal, I'm not going to register because this will start the snowball, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, we're advocating for the people that we care for, and I believe, Russell, that you still care for your mother at this point in time. So you need to be made aware of what's available for her. And in that regard, then we align ourselves for what we might need going forward. So if you're over the age of 65, we would highly recommend that, number one, you go onto the My Aged Care website, the health website that Uncle Benny was talking about, and avail yourself of that information and those details. And going forward, you will be in good stead for the way. Gentlemen, I've come into the Council of the Elders, and I now leave a little wiser. Thank you very much for joining me today, and we appreciate the information that you've shared with us. Russell, thank you. Uncle Benny, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like there are some big changes happening in aged care right now. A new rights-based Aged Care Act coming in on the 1st of November, along with a new support at home program to help older people living at home. There are some age requirements for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, or those who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. You can access the services from 50 years of age. For everybody else, it's from age 65. Don't forget, if you'd like to find out more about the changes or how you can access aged care, contact My Aged Care. You can ring them on 1800 200 422 or visit the website myagedcare.gov.au.
On the road, on the Shed Wireless.
Today's On the Road is one of my favourite places in Australia, Darwin. I'm chatting with Lance from the Palmerston Shed in the Northern Territory. Hi Lance, it's great to talk to you today. So tell me a bit about the shed.
Okay, we have actually two sheds. They're about 8 metres by 9, and they join together. We lease them off the council. One is the metalwork area, and that contains the administrative office, or what we call the cool room. The other is woodworking. Out the back we have another couple of sheds where we just store stuff and where we take African mahogany logs.
Instead of having a smoker, you go into the cool room.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I mean, you've got to understand that we have 4 seasons here. Same as you do down south, they're just a little bit different. We have hot and dry, hot and humid, bloody hot and humid, and hot and wet. In our shed, in our woodworking shed, we don't have any insulation on the ceiling. It's just a tin roof. So it can get up to about 38 degrees in there, depending on the time of year. Now, we had a look at the AMSA guidelines for working in the heat, and I think it said 35 degrees, you close down, you do lectures. If we waited for 35 degrees, we'd do nothing. So what we did, we had the office, we revitalised the office. It had holes in the walls and all the rest of it. We put notice boards over the windows and made it into basically an insulated cool room. So we had the air conditioner set on about 24 degrees, and 10 o'clock, everybody comes in. Sit down, they have a cup of coffee, there's cool drinks in the fridge. We sit there, we talk, we waffle, we bullshit, we roast each other something fearful. There's lots of laugh, but if anybody's got a problem, okay, we can give advice.
Wonderful. So how long have you been up in the Northern Territory, Lance?
I came here in 1978.
Ooh. So not too long after Cyclone Tracy.
Yeah, well, there was a big sort of populate or perish push, and we came up as part of that. We saw it on TV, and it looked a great place to bring up kids. And I still maintain that. My kids, well, they're not kids anymore, they're in their 40s, late 40s. They've got friends of all shapes, sizes, and colours.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I mean, my two of my granddaughters are what we refer to as little Chinese princesses.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, that was 78. And I still think it's a great place.
You're okay with the build-up when that happens? That's the bloody humid, isn't it?
That's bloody hot and humid.
Bloody hot and humid, yeah.
Yeah. It's hot, it's humid, you sit there and you sweat. And I mean, we're at the age now that we can afford to run the air conditioner. We've got a small condo, so we put the air conditioner on. It probably costs us about $1 a day.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the build up, it's the price you pay to get into the wet season. Because the wet season is absolutely magnificent.
Really?
You know, the big storms, the lightning, it's beautiful. It's nice and cool.
If shedders were going to come up and visit Darwin, but what should they do when they get to Darwin? What's a good thing to do?
Have a look at, first thing to do would be go to the museum, because there's a Cyclone Tracy display there. Now, you've got to remember that Darwin was rebuilt after Cyclone Tracy, so Darwin, in effect, is about 50 years old. So you have a look at the way things have progressed since then, and you get an understanding of the place. I mean, it's not like Melbourne, it's not like Brisbane, definitely not like Adelaide. It's a place all in itself. The weather is great, especially this time of year. We've got bright sunlight, cool nights, and it's easy to walk around. There's crocodiles. They're worth looking at because you just don't have them anywhere else like we do here. The wildlife, I mean, one of the things I really enjoy about where we live at the moment is we've got trees just over the other side of the fence, and the birds get in there, and the little buggers start chirping as soon as the sun starts to come up. And we've got curlews, I don't know, I'd sort of describe them like flamingos.
Oh, yes.
They've got long legs, long gangly legs, a big beak, but they walk really, really slow. But there's two types of curlews. One is a daytime curlew, which you hardly ever see. The other's a nighttime curlew, which you hear because they scream.
Oh.
And one of the things is when they actually scream, the belief is someone's about to get killed because it sounds like a woman screaming.
Oh, wow.
So the wildlife is impressive. East Point, which is just outside of the city, has hundreds of wallabies. So there's something there for everyone. We've got the Crocodile Park, and we've got what they call Crocodile's Cove, which is made for crocodiles made for the tourists. So yeah, it's not like anywhere else. One of the things about the territory, with it being so small, you get to know people. And last week, Graham Sharp, our president, and I were at the Palmerston market. So was our local member, and so was the Attorney General. Now, we applied for a government grant for a car. We put it in, we typed it out and had a look at all the other previous awardees, and they're all the remote communities. So we thought, well, we've got no idea and no chance. So we just let it go. About a month later, we got a reminder saying you got a half-finished grant application. So we finished it off just to get rid of the computer reminders. Mm-hmm. And a few months later, we got a message saying, congratulations, you're being awarded a car. It was a Hilux Ute. At the moment, it's got 8,000 K on it.
Well, I tell you what, I really enjoyed my time up there a couple of years ago, and I can't wait to go back. It really is an amazing place, and it's so different from anything down south.
It is,
and it's well worth the journey. Well, thank you very much, Lance, and good luck to everybody there at the Palmerston Shed, and keep going strong.
All right, John. Cheers.
If you think your hometown is somewhere that shedders should visit, I'd love to have a chat with you about your shed and what's great about your area. Send us an email to theshedwireless@menshed.net. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where the Palmerston Men's Shed is situated. The Larrakia people are the traditional owners of the Darwin and Palmerston region, and we acknowledge their continued connection to the land, waters and community. On the Pulse, on the Shed Wireless.
Thanks, JPY, and g'day, everyone. John, today I think you're going to be listening with interest. We're going to be discussing a topic close to your heart, a big part of yours and indeed everyone's lives in one way, shape or the other. Music touches everyone. It can make you cry, feel every kind of emotion. It can even bring back memories, even the ones we thought we'd forgotten. I'm Stuart Torrance, Shed Development Coordinator, Health and Wellbeing, and you're listening to On the Pulse, where we discuss anything and everything to do with health and wellbeing. Well, when I was young, I always wanted to play an instrument. I sat at the piano. I tried to get a tune out of a guitar, tried the trumpet and cornet in the boys' brigade. I even had a go at the drums. But do you think I could make those instruments make music? Not on your life. I think because it never sounded like it did on the radio, I gave up pretty quickly. But that has never stopped my love of music, and it has had a great influence throughout my life. To explore our music for health topic today, my guest is Dr. Jason Kenner, a music therapist from Melbourne, and he's with us in the studio today. Welcome, Jason, to On the Pulse.
Thanks, Stuart. It's great to be here.
Jason, let's kick off. Is there a difference between using music for your health and well-being and, let's say, music therapy, which is what you do?
Yeah, look, there is. I mean, music therapy, we as a music therapist, music therapists don't own the phrase music therapy. But because there is a profession called music therapy, I think it implies that if you're doing something and you're calling it music therapy, that the person who's doing it is a registered, qualified professional, in the same way as if you were doing speech therapy, you'd expect that you were doing it with a qualified speech therapist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Everybody can use music in a therapeutic way in their everyday life for their own health and well-being. But in music therapy, you're working with a music therapist, and you usually have very specific therapeutic goals in mind.
Right.
And the music therapist then uses their training and their skills to kind of figure out what's the best way to engage this person in music making with me that's going to help them to meet their goals.
So it's not just for enjoyment. You actually have a goal in mind.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. So, we work with people in a whole range of in areas. So, we can aged care, we work in mental health, we work in disability, oncology, in hospitals, in just gen med sort of situations, helping people cope with being in hospital, particularly long-term, long admissions. We work with children with autism. We work with mothers or parents and their kids when they're born prematurely, to help the parents to interact with their child. But palliative care, so we kind of do a bit of everything. But in terms of the mental health picture, which I think is probably more what you're thinking about, we sort of work with people often to work with trauma, work on emotional regulation, anxiety, and in cases where people have psychotic illnesses, helping them to manage voices and those types of things as well.
So I know it's used very greatly in dementia care, and music responds or lights up the brain and brings back flooding memories.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. I think everybody's seen those videos, on YouTube of people playing music to old folks with dementia, and they pop earphones on them and they play the music from that they remember from when they were young, and
they can remember all the words.
It's amazing. It's kind of astonishing. And even, I've worked with people, I used to work with people who had strokes, and there's a thing that happens sometimes when people have a stroke called aphasia, where you can talk, you can physically make words, but you can't actually piece together sentences. So accessing the correct words to express what you're feeling is lost. And so, even asking for a glass of water, someone can get stuck, and they might just say hello or something instead of saying, can I have a glass of water? But if you play music where they know the lyrics, they can still sing along and sing the correct lyrics. And through that, you can start to kind of find your way of going from there back to speech, depending on how severe the damage is. Some people can slowly start to learn to speak again. They can practice saying words like, hi, my name is Jason, or hi, my name is Stuart, in your case, and you sing that. And then over time, you start to sort of speak it rhythmically, and then you just speak it, and they learn these phrases. They could learn how to say, can I please have a glass of water?
A lot of sheds have a music group, ukulele group, choir, and the like. The Coolum Men's Shed has an annual festival, Music for Health, which I think is a great initiative. How does someone use music in their everyday life to improve their mental health?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, it's a great question, and that's a brilliant initiative, because just the language around that is the perfect first step. How do we use music for our health? Health and well-being. Thinking about music from that perspective is brilliant because that's new for a lot of people. I think we're getting more and more familiar with this idea, but a lot of people, they just think of music as something you kind of like or you don't like, or you just sort of put it on. But thinking about music for your health and well-being, straight away that changes the way you reflect on what are you going to play, and then how am I feeling while I'm playing the music. So the steps I like to talk to people about are, before you even put some music on, maybe ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Just a check-in. Where am I at? How am I feeling? How would I like to respond to the music that I put on right now? Where do I want it to just support how I'm feeling, or do I want it to maybe nudge me in a little bit of a different direction? And sometimes, if you go back to that example of feeling really frustrated and listening to something that's really heavy, maybe you start there, but then after a few songs, when you feel like you're loosening off a little bit, maybe then you start moving into a different genre, different tunes, and then end up something that's just a bit lighter, if that's where you want to end up. Music is really, it's just everywhere now. There was a time when, if you go back far enough, there was a time when music was only live music. And so it wasn't around all the time. And then even, when I was growing up, there was no internet and stuff like that. So you only really listened to the music that you had. But now with streaming, and music has become sort of free now. People just think of music as just something that you just access. And so people just put it on in the background all the time. So, listening to music is massively important because we're doing so much of that. However, playing an instrument is a whole different. Well, it's a whole bunch more going on when you're actually playing, because you're engaging your motor system. You're actually having to interact with this thing, whatever it is, a piano or a guitar or a drum or whatever. So there's all these sort of skills that you're learning. So, for some people that element is really amazing, and it can help it to become a bit more of a mindful exercise. Most people who play an instrument find that when they get in the zone, when they're practicing, everything else just disappears. It's just them and their instrument practice, and whatever else is going on in their life is completely forgotten for that period of time. So it's a little bit kind of mindfulness in that respect. You're able to just kind of take a break from the rest of the world and do it. Now, music listening has the potential to be like that too, but you have to do it a little bit differently. You need to actually just sit down quietly and only listen, which we don't do that much these days. Most people only have music on while they're doing other things. But if you can, and I like to think of it as a reset. If you just pick a short piece of music, something that that is not gonna surprise you. It's not gonna be too dark in terms of the emotional quality, and you sit back and you just listen to it. Close your eyes, just focus on your breathing, listen to a piece of music just for a few minutes. Really listen as deeply as you can. Like, what am I hearing? What's going on? Really, really engage. And then go on and go on with the rest of your day. That type of, really focused listening is extremely good for you. Absolutely. And look, for those who are listening, if you've got a Spotify, if you listen through Spotify, I've got a public playlist that I've called Reset. So my name's Jason Kenner. If you're looking Spotify, Reset Jason Kenner, you'll probably find this playlist, and it's just songs that are all 3 minutes or less, and they're all pretty safe in terms of they're pretty just gentle, warm sorts of pieces of music, and just randomly select one and try that exercise out. See if it makes you feel a little bit better.
Nice. Okay. So what you were saying about playing music and getting into the moment, so you've got the mechanics as well as the auditory impulses and things.
I remember joining a drumming circle, and I know you do drumming circles as part of music therapy. Um, but I tell you what, for a bunch of untalented people that were just picked from the crowd,
Hmm.
we came up with a pretty fantastic sound.
Oh,
It
it's
was amazing.
it's really good. You know, there's this thing that we can do, us human beings, called entrainment,
Mhm.
and that's the where we are able to all feel a pulse and play in time with each other.
Yeah.
And there aren't very many animals that can do that. We're the only primate that can. They've tried to teach monkeys and apes and chimpanzees. They can't do it. There are only a
Mhm.
few other animals. Some birds do it. Some insects, like cicadas or crickets, you hear them all pulsing together in times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They do that stuff. But we
Frogs.
do it in a way more sophisticated way. And
Okay.
it's similar to the way that when you're walking, and you go for a walk with you might be 3, 4 people you're walking, and then all of a sudden you notice sometimes your footsteps all just synchronize.
Yeah, yeah.
We naturally do this thing. And the theory around that is that, and it's kind of partly around why we actually have music as a thing that we do as human beings, because we've been doing it for a long time, is that like synchronizing like that in the way that you did in that drum circle, a group of people there, and you're all engaged in this pulse. There's a feeling of connection that's really amazing. And we release this chemical called oxytocin, which is the same chemical that mothers and infants release when they're during breastfeeding, when you're
Mhm.
falling in love with someone, you're forming really strong friendships. It's like the bonding chemical. It's like, I can trust this person. And when you're all in train together, doing a drum circle or playing music together, that happens as well. And you find that afterwards, you just feel like you know each other a little bit better.
A
There's
little
this
bit
kind of,
more connected.
yeah, it's like when you go to a concert, and you
Mm.
see a really great gig, and as you walk out of that gig, and you're looking around at all the other people that were in there with you, you sort of feel like we're a part of the same tribe.
Uh-huh.
You know that feeling?
Nice. Yeah.
And the theory is that that is about us being able to form communities, and it's actually a evolutionary thing that's important for us to be able to form strong communities and be able to to function as a communal animal together.
Well, Jason, with that in mind, I'd recommend any shed look at setting up a music group, whether that be a choir, a band, a ukulele group, whatever. Hey, get a music therapist in and get a drum circle going. Who knows? But I'll tell you what, I suggest that you link to your local music therapist, make sure that they're trained and attached to a credible organisation and association, and bring music into the sheds. I think that's a great initiative for our health and well-being. And Jason, thank you very much for your time today. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. And look, in Australia, the association that we are all a part of, us music therapists, is called the Australian Music Therapy Association. And you can just Google them, and they've got a find a music therapist link. So if anyone's wanting to get a music therapist to give them advice on setting up any music programs, or actually get involved in those programs, that's where you can find someone. So the Australian Music Therapy Association, the AMTA.
Thanks very much, Jason. It's very much like I find a shed. It's been another interesting conversation on the pulse. Back to you, JPY. Thank you.
Well, music therapy, it certainly is very interesting. And my long-term keyboard player, who's been with me for 50 years, he has actually put together a piece of music designed to help stroke victims.
G'day, Shadows, Rip Woodchip here. How you all going today? Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Sometimes life hits harder than a rogue gum tree in a gale. And if it ain't your health, your kids, your cars, or finances, or lack thereof, it's things that are totally beyond your control. Yeah, I'm talking natural disasters. And haven't we all copped our fair share lately? And by crikey, that can test a man to his absolute bloody limit. Floods, fires, they don't just tear up roads and fences, they tear through the middle of your life. 1 minute you're sitting on the veranda with a cover, next minute the bloody veranda's gone. And sometimes the things that go missing aren't always just things at all. Your sense of normal, your peace and quiet, the photos on the fridge, the dog, maybe even someone you loved. Yep, and grief can set in, and grief's a bugger like that. It don't wear a name tag or knock politely, it just moves in and sets up shop in the quiet corners of your day. And it's not a straight line, it's more like an old country road, full of potholes, detours, and the occasional roo if you're not looking. And no matter how many times someone says, you're lucky to be alive, well, you don't always feel it, do you? But if you're still standing, even when it hurts like hell, well, that's brave. What did old Winston Churchill say? If you feel like you're going through hell, just keep going. But don't lock yourself away too long, because the longer you're out there alone, the harder it is to find your way back. And here's the thing about natural disasters. Once the TV crews are gone home and the emergency signs come down, well, that's when the real work starts. The long clean-up and the slow healing. And that's where the sheds come in. Not with big headlines, but with steady hands. Not to fix you, but to walk with you. I've seen shedders rock up with a trailer full of tools and an esky full of sandwiches. No fanfare, just, where do you need us? I've seen blokes rebuild fences, fix up someone's gate, or just sit on a pile of bricks and listen. And I've seen over months and years, not days, the real power of community. See, mopping up just ain't about brooms and buckets, it's about checking in, again and again. Because trauma sticks around like long after the water recedes and the last ember dies out. It shows up in broken routines, short tempers, long silences. That's when the shed becomes more than just a workspace. It becomes a lifeline. So if your shed's a region that's copped it rough, or you know someone's still finding their feet after a disaster, don't wait to be asked. Reach out, offer a hand, lend a tool, share a cuppa. Be the calm in their storm. Because mopping up just doesn't end when the floors are clean. It ends when the bloke standing on his feet feels steady again. All right, I better get going. There's a pile of timber out the back waiting for a second life. Bit like all of us, really. Take care out there, fellas. Look after your mates and look after yourself. Catch you, fellas. See ya.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our episode today. As always, drop me an email to theshedwireless@menshed.net if you know a shedder you reckon we should have a chat to or a topic we should yarn about. The Shed Wireless is produced by the Australian Men's Shed Association, made in Australia and distributed all over the world for the love of shedding.
It don't matter if you work with wood or fabricating metal is the thing you understood. Whatever is your game, everyone's the same. Yeah, we can do it all at the Men's Shed. Short, fat, tall, skinny, hairy, bald. In the shed, it's welcome one and all. Share the skills you know, we're all having a go.